Welcome to the Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the L Network. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the Fanatical Elfz Network and Fans First Sports Network. I am John Suchan, and we are welcomed tonight by the Village Elliott and Steve Gill. Welcome to both of you. How are you, Steve? How are you doing down there in good old Tennessee tonight?
Doing great. The 50th annual CMA Fest started today, so all the hotels are filled again, and downtown is filled with a bunch of drunk country music fans. Yeehaw! Spend your money. Leave your green.
We're having the art festival here in Columbus. That's what we're doing. We're not doing all that fun, stuff down in Nashville, but
oh my God, there's stages everywhere. Every honky tonk is filled. There are cowboy boots and cowboy hats everywhere.
Oh boy.
I tell you.
Stay home. Hey, are you guys getting any of that the smoke from Canada coming down your way there to Nashville? Is it reaching you?
Yeah, Tuesday it smelled like a fireplace outside.
Oh, yes. It's very
hazy.
Yes, I think they canceled some baseball games tonight over in New York. Yeah, over in New York. So, Elliot, how are you?
Oh, I'm just fantastic. It's really nice down here in Dayton.
Yeah,
a little bit hazy, but other than that,
man, Elliot, it's surprising. We haven't had any rain like here in Ohio for like almost 3 weeks now.
Yeah, it's been very dry. Well, actually, we did have a little bit of rain in Dayton yesterday. So the lawn isn't.
You did have a little bit.
A little bit.
Aren't you lucky?
Wasn't it the Wizard of Oz? I feel like when it's gonna rain the next time, I'll be the witch of the north that melts when she gets water put on her or whatever.
Oh, poppies will put them to sleep.
Just don't hang out with a bunch of monkeys and you'll be all right.
That's right.
Oh,
yeah.
Flying monkeys.
The flying monkeys.
Yeah. Bad. They are bad.
That's bad. The Wizard of Oz. What a movie. So welcome to you both and welcome to our show again this week. We are, by the way, we have our trivia contest still. We are giving away free tickets to a Browns versus Baltimore Ravens game in week 4. Real tickets, they're free, folks. We are promising you this. We need you to listen to the trivia question tonight, and you can either email the show at elfznetwork@gmail.com. That's ELFZ network@gmail.com. Or tonight, you can also direct message us at the Fanatical Elfz on Twitter. We have 2 Twitter sites. You could even direct message us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page for the Fanatical Elfz. So we need your answers. We need we want to give these tickets away to you, and we love to make that announcement later this week. We're looking right now at our Sunday show where we have the Sunday kickoff, any given Sunday show where we will be announcing those winners of those tickets. So this week has been busy for the Brownies. We had our 3-day mandatory minicamp, and all those guys that were voluntarily not coming showed up this week, including Nick Chubb, who's chasing Jim Brown now, and Myles Garrett, the often outspoken, and Joel Bitonio. So I'd love your initial takes on just the week that was. I know, Steve, you write for a particular blog today, and also Cleveland Sports Talk. We thank you for your support and Cleveland Sports Talk support. I know Elliot and I write for Dog Pound Daily as well, and I guess we'll just start up there with Steve. Initial thoughts on the mini camp right now after we're finishing up day 3.
Well, I know it's 7-on-7, 11-on-11, no pass rush, that kind of thing. There's still coverage. But if you watched it on social media and if you listen or read the articles, the ball hardly touched the ground in the pass. It was more of a passing camp, I know. But the amazing thing is that's how these practices work when you have a franchise quarterback and a good team. This is what it looks like in Kansas City, in Buffalo, in Philadelphia. This is how it's supposed to look. In the past, it has not looked this way.
Yes.
I thought Watson, his wide receivers were getting open. There's still coverage. He was throwing in tight windows. I love the fact that they're moving Elijah Moore all over the place. In Ole Miss, that's the exact same thing he did in college. They moved him around all over the place, and he's extremely effective. I'm just very impressed the way this all looked. It just appeared to me that Watson and Stefanski are on the same page. I was very impressed with the way this worked. On defense, you talk to the defensive players, they are all in on Jim Schwartz. And that's a good sign.
And okay. It's nice to hear that compared to, not so long ago when we had quarterbacks that had trouble like knowing where the playbook was and would fly off to Vegas and party hard. So it's nice that we see a guy that's, I think, spending a lot of time and focused on trying to get this football team right.
He looked like he was having fun.
Yes.
Deshaun Watson looked like he was having fun.
Well, considering what was going on a year ago.
Yeah.
And mentally, I mean, and I'm sure things are still going on behind the scenes that we are unaware of. But for a young person, you're right. He's always come across that way. And even talking to people that would follow Deshaun when he was younger and in Houston, people that followed that Houston Texans team, he was always very pretty positive character coming out of Clemson. So I think that all bodes well for the Brownies.
One last thing, you know things are going well when the national media reads the local media, and all of a sudden you're seeing on like Good Morning Football and all these national shows, are we sleeping on the Cleveland Browns? Are the Cleveland Browns going to be the surprise team this year? All of a sudden, we've gone from they're ranked 21st. I saw one power ranking when they were ranked 11th.
Right.
In a week.
I've been asked that, like last night I was on a show with our colleague, Kevin, well, not colleague. He works for Fanatical or the Fans First Sports Network, Kevin Smith, with the Steeler affiliate. And he asked the question of where the Browns are stacking up this year against the rest of the AFC competition, like the Chiefs and the Bills. And because of what the Browns have done this offseason and because of Deshaun Watson returning, should we, like you just said, we shouldn't be sleeping on Cleveland? And he asked for my assessment on that. And I kind of said generally what you said, Steve. We do have a lot of, new pieces. And I think Deshaun's return, and he doesn't seem like as rusty. And he's had a lot of time to practice. And obviously these are 7-on-7 drills. We're not getting a pass rush yet, but you're definitely, I think, onto something here with Watson and Stefanski. So, Elliot, what's your initial assessment?
Well, I have a bit more guarded assessment. I would say that in this situation, you really can't do anything that would actually impress me, but you can do things that would be negative. This is an opportunity for you to screw up, but you really can't prove anything positive. there were some things that were kind of bad that did happen. We had Greg Newsom and Perrion Winfrey that were freelancing at 3:30 a.m. on the morning of minicamp. What are you fellas
Wait, I thought
doing?
you were talking about that early in the podcast, the other podcast you did.
That was over the
you were
weekend.
that you were so excited that they were up at 3:30 in the morning. What,
Well,
Elliot?
that's true. That's true. But Joel corrected me and said that they weren't actually up early; they were out late. I was going to cut them slack, say
come
about what a
on.
good attitude they were for getting up early and being up at 3:30 a.m. in anticipation of minicamp. But no, they were actually out late partying, and they were robbed at gunpoint. If you didn't hear that somehow,
Oh
they were
yes,
robbed at
yes.
gunpoint, lost their jewelry. I was going to commend them for being smart investors and investing in diamonds, which are a rock solid investment in these inflationary times. But no,
Gold and
they lost
diamonds,
their
come
jewelry to armed desperados, and they also
Desperados.
lost their expensive sports cars to the same bandits. They were probably the sticky bandits that got Kevin McAllister's family as well. So that is something that bad happened. If it were golf, let's put it this way, this would be 6 to 12-inch putt practice. There's nothing you can do that would really impress anybody. But if you start screwing up 6 to 12-inch putts, that's a bad sign. So I think that there's some defensive players that have some explaining to do. It just seems like the people that get into trouble with these apparently improbable, random events happen to be the players that play below their potential.
Yeah, I definitely, and Elliot, I know you spoke about this a little bit the other day with your football philosophy and rocket science, which is a great podcast. Guys, go back and listen to it. It's part of the our Fanatical Elfz network with Elliot here and Joel Cade. The topic. Let's talk about that. Just that topic, and particularly a couple of these players, like Greg Newsom. Greg Newsom coming out of Northwestern, smart school. You're thinking when they drafted him a year ago, or was it 2 years ago now, that he would be better than he is at this point. He doesn't have any interceptions. They've moved him around a little bit. Now he's caught out at 3:30 in the morning with Perrion Winfrey, who's already had a handful of issues. And then you read other comments. You go back and start reading things. I was telling Steve off air about this basketball hoop at the Browns minicamp, which we'll get into here in a minute. But in an article that was written a year ago, Greg Newsom was quoted about how Stefanski is a player's coach, like Steve said, and this is all about team bonding. But then we get serious when we get onto the field of play, and we're professionals. And I'm questioning a lot of that, especially with what you're saying right now about him and others.
Yeah, whose idea was it to put the basketball hoop up anyway? Was that
Stefanski's
idea?
Yeah, it was. And I got a lot of crap on Twitter last night when I made a comment in reference to that. And lo and behold, Stefanski, it was his family's hoop, and he wanted to bring it. And I forgot that Stefanski's father is an NBA, what is it, an executive or a scout or something. And so he's had basketball in his life. And on one hand, like I told Steve before we came on air tonight, it's an area that I can see how it's building toward team stuff. But the idea that you have players like Myles Garrett, who got hurt in a pickup game or whatever, now you got a rim out there on a field. It's not asphalt, but you're playing basketball. And I'm old school. I'm old, and I know all the young people are going, oh, they just want to have fun. And I just think it's counter to what Stefanski's supposed to be all about. His detail, it's
a mixed message.
It's a mixed message. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about.
Mixed up. Yeah, especially because he was pretty firm that Myles Garrett shouldn't be playing basketball in the off season. He went on social media showing off his basketball skills. I think the guy's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
he's got a vertical leap like no one else. I think he probably could play NBA basketball. But I don't think it's a good idea. I think it was a bad message, and I think these the guys on defense have not been looking very good. I think, by the way, the entire defensive backfield, I think, has been playing below its potential. I don't think Greg Newsome had a very good year. And then I think, let's talk about on the other side, Denzel Ward had a terrible year. I mean, he was a disaster. He got a huge contract, and then he played. He was probably the worst player on defense that the Browns had after getting an enormous contract. I can't understand it.
I think what saved his butt is that he intercepted Joe Burrow and ran it back 99 yards like 2 years ago.
Didn't
and we're still running that highlight.
It's his contract. They can't afford to get rid of him. They're paying him like one of the top 5 cornerbacks in the NFL. There's no way that they can get rid of him. He has to be in the lineup. There's no choice. He has to be good. It's just an incredible downturn in his play from 1 year, and that's probably the reason why Joe Woods had to go. Joe Woods is a specialty in the defensive backfield, and his star pupil really let him down. And I think that more than anything else caused his demise.
So, let me ask Steve this question. So, with that in mind, we're talking about the defensive side of the ball and the cornerbacks, and let's say the secondary. We lost John Johnson, but now we picked up Juan Thornhill. Steve, do you think that getting a couple players like that and then Rodney McLeod will help with what Elliott's sort of suggesting, is because it has been porous in that department? Will these other players help a little bit?
I think so. Also, I think Jim Schwartz's scheme will also help. McLeod knows it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
For your number 3 safety. Anytime that you can get a free safety like Juan Thornhill, that puts Grant Delpit up closer to the line of scrimmage. And for God's sakes, we do not want to see Grant Delpit in coverage ever again. I've seen enough of that last year. It does not work. He's better at the line of scrimmage. Also, the players said Schwartz is not assigning zones. He's assigning players.
Okay.
So if the guy you're covering lines up in the slot, guess what? You're lined up in the slot. If the guy you're covering is wide, guess what? You're going to be wide. So that tells me he's going to play more man. I think he has the talent to do that. Martin Emerson is very good at that. Ward is better at that. I think Newsome will be better at that. I'll trust Jim Schwartz, but I'm going to wait until I see some preseason games before I totally buy into it.
Yes. Yeah.
I got to see some games.
We need to see some.
And thank goodness, they got a new offense, new defense, and they've got 4 preseason games and an extra week of practice. That helps them. So I'll wait till probably game 3 against Philadelphia will be your dress rehearsal game. That will be a good indicator of how all this stuff's working.
Yeah. Elliot, final thoughts in this department before we move on to our next segment, or we're going to talk about another subject here real quick.
Well, yeah, I think, Steve, your analysis is spot on. I think really you've captured it brilliantly. We need to see improvement there. I think I wanted to point out also that Juan Thornhill is a free safety, and John Johnson was a strong safety playing free safety.
Yeah.
And we really, my point all along has been, we really shouldn't judge John Johnson's ability as a football player because he was playing out of position for his entire career with the Cleveland Browns, which was ridiculous. Yeah. They just never got a free safety during the time that he was with the Browns, which is very unfortunate for everybody.
Yeah, very good. So let me ask you, let's start with this. I know, Elliot, you were talking with Joel on your other show the other day, I believe, about gambling and this whole thing going on in the NFL. Tom Brady is now the spokesperson, supposedly, and the NFL has what is Elliot, or I'm sorry, Joel calls them what's the name that he gives to the NFL owners? Anyway,
Rich white guys.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we can print all the names.
The Borg. The Borg. He calls them the Borg.
Oh, the Borg.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Tom Brady's a spokesperson for anti-gambling, but then, and we were talking, you were, or Joel was on his previous show early in the week. I think it was on his What the Elf Was That show, about how it's so hypocritical that the NFL is so much invested right now in FanDuel or all these gambling, the DraftKings. They're promoting it. They're going to be starting to put in, like in Cleveland, for example. Joel was speculating that they're going to put in places at the stadium where you can now, gamble during the game. And yet there's a series of players that have been banned from the NFL for gambling. And now Tom Brady's coming out with these commercials. I just find it totally hypocritical. Like Joel says, I wanted kind of your thoughts on this whole area. I mean, obviously it's not going away. What do you think about it right now? And is it just, what's
hypocritical? I mean, the league wants to make money from gambling. I think that's been the case since the inception of professional football.
I think the idea that they're banning these players for something that they're trying to, they're getting gobs of money.
Nobody's been banned for life, have they?
No.
I think you have to suspend. You have to punish them. The gambling community needs to make sure that the NFL players are trying their best to win, and they're not laying over in order to make money from betting.
But now
that sports needs to have true competition at all times. That's what we need the players to do. So I don't believe that sense it's hypocritical at all. So the players need to be punished if they're trying to win money by gambling instead of by playing football. So that's.
But where do you fall on this whole thing with, if you're putting like gambling, like basically casinos into these stadiums,
that's for fans. It's not for the players. Fans gamble.
I get that.
Players don't. There's no crossover there. Football players cannot gamble.
It's such
you
a
can
gray
either be
area,
a gambler or you can be a player. You cannot be both.
I know it's all about the dollar. I get that. It's just when I listen
it's
to
not hypocritical. There's no crossover permitted.
How these players?
I don't think you should get the death penalty. I don't think you should get suspended for life. I don't think Pete Rose should be banned from the Hall of Fame. I think you should leave it up to the voters. Sure. But I think that there should be punishment for gambling.
I'm not saying there shouldn't be. No, and I'm not necessarily saying that. I just think it's funny. Maybe it's more funny that we've all this new betting and it's just ballooned everything and made the NFL is just maximizing. I mean, there's a huge money machine.
Yeah, they want to make money. I'm cool with that.
We all do.
But the players should not make money from gambling. Period. As long as you're a player, you can't do that.
Yeah,
there's just no way that you can allow players to make money from gambling. It just doesn't make any sense. And if players try to do that, that means they are dumb. They're just dumb.
Yeah,
you cannot gamble if you are a player.
The rules are simple. Don't bet on football while you're on NFL property. Like if you're in the parking lot in Berea and you're on your phone.
No, you can't do it at all. You can't do it at all.
FanDuel and DraftKings knows where you are.
Right.
Well, there's one thing, try to do it and not get
caught. Are trackable.
So there's one thing, do it and not get caught. It's like performance enhancing drugs. But Jiminy Christmas, you have to understand that the rule is that you cannot gamble and play professional sports at the same time.
But it's still incompatible. It's the idea like that the left guard has been talking about with the Borg, and that how I suggested earlier that the NFL, the owners, the rich guys are, they're just manipulating the system because there's money and they have it all. It just seems like the things that they're doing to players, and granted that these players should be, I'm not saying they shouldn't be punished. I just think I think they take it to great extremes, and they like to point out when they find somebody that's done something. I mean, if we switch gears and we talk,
don't bet on football, especially your own team. On NFL.
mean,
what's
no,
going
they
on?
they
What's
can't
going on?
tolerate it.
What's going on
by
with
the way,
Colts? Yeah, the Colts.
John, by the way,
yeah,
the one thing about rich guys, you know what they want the most? To become richer.
More money. They
That's what
like
this is
money.
all
That's
about.
why they're rich.
I just love yeah. So the Colts. Tell me what I haven't invested a lot of time looking at what the Colts are in trouble for. Steve, can you share a little bit?
Apparently, one of their players has got some kind of network going, and this is all I've heard. This, of other players, and it's like a gambling pool, I guess. That's what I took from it. I may be wrong, and they had leaked out. The NFL had leaked out, 3 weeks ago, that more suspensions were coming. At the owners' meeting, that's when the commissioner said more suspensions are coming. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know who they've caught. The rumor is it's a guy with the Colts, but right now it's just all rumors.
Well, there's not a lot to do in
Isaiah
Indiana.
Rodgers has apologized, and the NFL is probing that it's apparently pervasive NFL betting. There may be others that are involved. Sports Illustrated says that it may be a lifetime ban for Rodgers, but we'll just have to see how widespread it is and how big the scandal was. But there should not be a way for a player to make money by gambling while he's playing the game. Gamble on baseball if you're a football player. I don't think that's
basketball.
So bad,
I don't think that's allowed either. I don't think that's allowed. I
don't think it is allowed, but I'm just saying, in my opinion, that is not nearly as bad as gambling on your own sport while you're playing your sport. That is just, you just can't do that.
It's just,
it does not make any sense that you can't have a product in which the players have incentive to not play the game to their fullest ability. It doesn't make any sense.
With that, folks, we're going to take a quick break because we are all hyped up and ready.
Yeah, we're going to hyperventilate if we don't take a break.
We're going to go to the break. This is the Fanatical Elfz.
I got to see how I'm doing on the money line on the Guardians.
Yeah, you take.
That's right.
So this is our Fanatical Elfz show. This is part of the Fanatical Elfz network. We were going to take a break real quick, and we'll be right back after these commercials. Okay, welcome back to the Fanatical Elfz show. We are part of the Fanatical Elfz network, part of Fans First Sports Network, and I am your host, John Suchan. We're here with Steve Gill and the Village Elliott. Thank you for coming back after that really extensively long break. Steve, did you get a chance to look at your DraftKings things for the Guardians or whatnot?
I don't bet.
Are we hypocrites if we make money by selling commercials?
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
So let's move on. So we're going to talk
Elliot,
trivia.
Elliot,
we're going to talk trivia here.
Compass.
Okay.
So this is our final trivia question. Now, folks, if you're listening or if you're watching this, you can email the show at elvesnetwork@gmail.com, or you can direct message us at Twitter or on Facebook with the answer to this question. This is a really, really difficult question. So I really want you to think here, Browns fans. All right. So our trivia question tonight is former Cleveland Brown great head coach, owner, the guy that founded the Cleveland Browns. His name was Paul Brown. Okay. The question is, Paul Brown, all right, where did he coach high school football before he went on to the college ranks and eventually helped create the Cleveland Browns. Paul Brown, the great Paul Brown, where did he coach high school football in the state of Ohio? My mother went to this school as well, but not at the same time that Paul Brown was coaching, I don't believe. So that's the question. Email the show at Elfz
I
Network.
know there are people out there who know this answer. So come on, you can do it. 2 free tickets.
All we need is your name and a contact. You can direct message us right on our social media platform, right on Twitter. We will read those and I will be in contact with you. We're going to announce the winner later this weekend when we have our kickoff, the Any Given Kickoff show Sunday evening. We will announce the winner of these 2, that's right, free tickets. And I believe the left guard, Joel, has already promised to be there in attendance to hang out with you if you win these tickets. He will, I know, he's famous, and you want to hang out with Joel, the left guard. Let me tell you, you're going to have a great time. I might even be there too. And I think Village Elliott, sometimes you come to those big games, so you might be in attendance. We might just have a big party that day.
Well, we might.
All right, so let's move on to our next topic here. Real quick, I wanted to get your take on Nick Chubb and Jim Brown. We've talked about the passing of Jim Brown, and recently, people have been in the media circle that follow the Brownies have been talking more about Nick Chubb, including myself, and if he can realistically catch Jim. And we've kind of talked about it here on this show again, but I'd like your assessment. I strongly believe that the Browns should give him another contract, potentially by next year, to extend him. I figured he still needs 5 seasons, at least probably 6, to catch Jim's some of where he's at. So that's my take on it. Steve, let's go with you first.
Boy,
does he have
tough.
a chance?
I love Nick Chubb, but he plays a position that, let's face it, very few have longevity at. Nick Chubb would probably tell you, if you're only extending me so I could break Jim Brown's record, don't extend me. Didn't he famously say to OBJ, when OBJ said, I want another touchdown, all he said was, I want to win.
You want to win.
So could he do it? He's signed Elliott this year and next year?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but
it's through the next 2 seasons, so he'll be a free agent.
Seasons, 23 and 24. 25.
Yeah.
He might be able to do it if he signed through 25. I don't know how many yards he's behind. I know he's climbing up the list fast.
I mean, he's halfway there.
Halfway there? Ooh.
Yeah.
I think of the NFL as a business, and extending him just for the sake of having him pass Jim Brown is not a good business decision.
In this new offense, Steve, do you think – let me just ask you this, because with this new offense, and Elliot, you can talk about this next as far as Nick Chubb. But with the new offense and how they're spreading it out and whatnot, Chubb might not get maybe as many rushes. I mean, I think we are investing too much time looking at that. But if he doesn't get as many touches, the touches he does get, it'll keep him fresher. So maybe he'll continue that nice yardage, his 5.3 yards per carry. I mean, where do you kind of see that? Steve, you have any thoughts before I go to Elliot?
The good news is if the offense clicks early, you're going to see a lot of Nick Chubb late. So, to keep the lead. If one thing Kevin Stefanski's consistent on, that's what he wants to do. So, he may get a few more carries than we all think.
And that's the funny thing too, is you go back and look at last season, everybody was complaining about how Nick Chubb wasn't touching the ball more, and yet he had more touches a year last season than any other in his career so far. So
Right.
it totally, I know our leader in charge, Randy Gurzy, would oftentimes remind me of this in our conversation that, Nick Chubb was getting the ball. I always thought he needed to get the ball more. So, Elliot, where are you at with Nick Chubb? Do you think that he has a shot, or is it just, out of reach?
Oh, no, he absolutely has a shot because he's going to play more years than Jim Brown, and he's got more games per season than Jim Brown. He's not going to get Jim Brown's record in the same number of games or even the same number of seasons. But, yeah, he has a real legitimate shot. Now, as for the number of carries and the number of yards he's going to get this year, because does anybody know how to do math? I don't understand why people can't understand that he's going to get, the carries that Kareem Hunt isn't going to get because Kareem Hunt is not on the team. So when they're talking about fewer team carries this season, that's not going to impact Nick Chubb's total number of touches because there is not Kareem Hunt to absorb half of the carries this season. Kareem Hunt's not on the team.
You don't see that
Nick Chubb is going to have more touches than he did last year, even as the team has fewer rushing attempts than he did last year. I think there's a real danger of overworking Nick Chubb this season, even if they do have fewer overall rushing attempts this year. I don't know where people are getting their numbers from.
Great point. Elliot bringing it.
Just add it up and figure out how many rushing attempts that Kareem Hunt had last year and ask where are they going to come from? Well, some of them.
Jerome Ford.
How many did he have last year? 6?
Okay, but isn't he it's being suggested that he will replace Kareem Hunt's.
Yeah, but he had number. Six.
Oh, I get that, season. But I mean, if Kareem was getting, let's say,
it's not for sure that he's going to be able to replace Kareem Hunt. You're talking about a guy that had 6 rushing attempts last season. Oh, yeah, I think he can replace a former All-Pro running back. Sure. That is so not obvious. So, to me, it's very clear that Nick Chubb has to be prepared to absorb more of.
Well, I tell you, Elliot,
Hunt's rushing attempts than this kid that had 6 rushing attempts last season. That's crazy.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think what was really striking to me, the symbolism, and I don't know if you call it symbolism, seeing Nick Chubb on the field during minicamps the last couple of days. There was some footage of him minus Kareem Hunt, who oftentimes we would see pictures or video of the two of them standing side by side, and they really supported one another, and they would talk to each other or talk to the media together and supporting each other's endeavors. And now he's missing. And just, you and I, we all work with, colleagues and friends and, or, people that we know. And that's got to have some effect on Chubb, working without somebody that he was probably pretty close to. And you wonder how that will, affect him in good ways and bad ways, potentially. I don't think it's going to be a negative, but I'm an emotional guy. So it was a little bit sad to see that, Hunt was not there.
Yeah. By the way, I made a mistake. Jerome Ford didn't have 6 attempts last season. He had 8. He had 12 yards total rushing. His average was 1.5 yards. And, maybe he'll have a breakout season and it'll turn out to be, like Leroy Kelly replacing Jim Brown in 1965. But, we just can't take that for granted. I think we have to assume that Nick Chubb will get all the rushing carries he wants in 2023. And plus, I really think he's going to need to have more receptions this season than he's had in a long time, because I think that's the way Deshaun Watson plays is he likes to throw the ball to his running backs. And so
running
Nick
backs
Chubb
and
has to be
tight
ready
ends.
for that.
Yeah.
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 Elliot,
Yeah,
let me ask. Yeah, I'm sorry,
One
Steve.
thing one thing I noticed about Chubb, two things. He's smiling a lot, which is very unusual for Nick Chubb. And he looks like he's in the best shape of his life. I think he knows he's going to be carrying the load a little bit more this year with Hunt
You think
gone.
so? Okay.
Oh, he looked like he was in great shape. My goodness.
Let's jump, since we're talking a little bit about Jim Brown, and to a little bit of cardiac history. What sparked my history lesson here in cardiac history moments was our colleague, again, the left guard, talking about his trivia question, which was earlier in the week. And if you want to answer his question, it was what quarterback led the Cleveland Browns in the late 1980s, early 90s to 3 AFC championship games? I won't give away that answer, but if you want to answer the question, who was the Browns quarterback that led them to 3 AFC championship games in the late 80s, early 90s?
Mid to late 80s.
Mid to late 80s. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
1986, 1987,
87
Yeah.
and 89.
1988, but 1989.
So if you have the
89, yeah.
answer to that,
I have no idea who it was.
send your answers to the Elves Network at gmail.com or direct message us at our Twitter pages. So I'm not going to give away the answer, but the Browns did make it to 3 AFC championship games during
Yes, they
that
did.
period. Do you know where those Super Bowls could have been for us Browns fans to attend? Did anybody any guesses there? I thought this was a little fun to see if
I think
I don't
one was in California, I think.
yeah, the first one was the
Giants and
the
Broncos.
87, the 86 season, when the Browns lost on the drive. The Browns would have gone out to play in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. The following year, when they played and lost on the fumble, when Ernest Biner unfortunately fumbled it as he was going in. So, speaking of that, before I give away the answer to that, when the Browns played that game and he fumbled the ball, people go back in time and they say that the Browns would have won the game. But I've gone back and watched that. If they had scored the touchdown there, they would have still had to kick the field goal to, I think, tie it. It would have only been.
Well, you got to remember, when Denver got the ball back, they took an intentional safety.
They did. Right. It's okay. That's right. It was 36. Wait, so it was 36 to 33 at the time, and when the Browns were going to take the lead, and then they took the intentional, because the final score was 38-33, I thought.
The thing about that game was the Browns in the second half had all the momentum.
Oh, they had everything.
The momentum. They had Denver on their heels.
Oh, the whole second half.
Yeah, I know, because they were down. They were down at halftime, and they came roaring back.
That game was yeah, they did. We would have, where we would have gone, Steve? We would have gone to San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been nice. And so then the next year they didn't go to the AFC Championship. But then the following year in the 89 season, the Super Bowl, and back then the Super Bowl was played in January still. They would have gone down to Mardi Gras. They would have gone to New Orleans to play in the Dome. So, man, opportunities. Anybody know where the Super Bowl is being played this next season?
Vegas?
Elliot, what do you think?
That sounds like a good guess. That sounds right. I'm not sure, though.
You are correct.
Vegas?
You are. Yep. It's Allegiant Stadium, Paradise, Nevada.
So all you fans, you can bet on
February
that game
11th.
right there in Vegas.
February 11th. And any guesses as to where the Super Bowl would be played in 2020 for the 2024 season? It's now not just the Superdome. It's the Caesars Superdome down in New Orleans again.
New Orleans. Okay.
Yep. All right. Elliot, you have any Steeler jokes or Brownie jokes?
Well, actually, I have some Steelers material. These are not actually jokes, but I wanted to share with Cleveland fans some wonderful stuff from the hockey announcer that they had in Pittsburgh, and he was very famous for making up these really absurd calls. And man, I'm stalling because I'm blanking on his name.
Oh.
But anyway, I'll come up with it and let you know in just a minute. But anyway, some of the calls that he would make were completely outrageous. Like, and by the way, there's a guy in Columbus that's very similar. His name is Bob McEllicott.
Okay.
And he would say, just stuff like one of the classic calls is "Great Balls of Fire." And if something unusual would happen during the game, and he'd say, "Scratch my back with a hacksaw." "Look out, Loretta. Buy Sam a drink and get his dog one too. He beat him like a rented mule. Michael motorcycle. He's smiling like a butcher's dog.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building." One of my favorites when the game was starting to heat up a little bit, he'd say, "Get into the fast lane, Grandma. The bingo game is about to start." And then the goalie, after somebody would score a goal on him, would say, "He doesn't know whether to cry or wind his watch." And the announcer's name is Mike Lang, Lange.
Mike Lang.
Yeah. He's retired now. But man, he was an awesome announcer. You Pittsburgh guys, the Pittsburgh Penguins, I know you guys really appreciate Mike Lang so much, and we don't really have the chance to listen to Pittsburgh broadcasts that much because the signal doesn't really quite make it all the way to Cleveland. Maybe on the east side we could get it a little bit.
Yes.
But, man, those are just fantastic broadcasts, and
oh, that's great.
Yeah,
great.
we really envy you guys in Pittsburgh for that. I used to be able to catch that in West Virginia when I lived in West Virginia. I could get that broadcast.
Oh, that's cool.
Just to listen to that.
Well, thank you for taking us down that memory. That's awesome. Just awesome.
Hockey announcers are all that way. I think
Steve,
the NFL should employ hockey announcers.
Yeah, that would be okay.
Steve, do you have any did you know moments or for either one of you this segment of our show we're talking about Browns history or just anything of Browns? Did you know, Steve? What do you got?
Well, did you know, and I'm only talking about the AFC North. I'm not talking about the AFC Central. Only the AFC North. No team has won the AFC North 3 times in a row.
Oh.
Cincinnati has won it the last 2 years. So,
grab
your FanDuel apps and no, I'm kidding.
That's very interesting.
That is very interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah, just a stat I saw this week, and I went, "Huh, I didn't know that."
That is neat. Yeah, Elliot, you got anything else other than
Yeah, I did have a couple things. We talked about quarterbacks. One is, can you name for me the quarterback for the new Browns in 1999 who started the first game ever for the Cleveland Browns? Does anybody remember who it was?
Yes.
Which one?
And do I need to give a hint? Who started game number 1? Okay, who was it?
Smart.
Who was it, John?
Ty Detmer.
That's right. It was Ty Detmer. Most people would guess that it was Tim Couch, but that's not true. Tim started game number 2, I believe. But that's when the rebuilding program started.
Elliot, now you said something to me the other day about who was threw the first Browns touchdown in like 1946, and it's not Otto Graham, right?
That's true. It was not Otto Graham. Otto Graham did not start at quarterback that first game either.
Mm.
Was
Was his name Cliff? Was it Cliff Lee?
No, that's a
Cliff Lewis.
Cliff Lewis. Yes.
Was
okay. See, I looked that up earlier myself, and I got the wrong name. Cliff Lee was a baseball player for the Indians.
Yeah, you know what else I realized after looking at the stats is that when they talked about when you got credit for being a starter, they didn't have separate stats for offense and defense. So in other words, as soon as they lined up, whoever's on offense was a starter, whoever was defense was a starter. But so you only, your quarterback, in other words, would only get half the starts, not all of the starts. You couldn't have a starting streak if you were just the quarterback. So if you played 12 games a season, you were only going to get 6 starts per season. So I didn't realize that.
Interesting.
But anyway, Cliff Lewis, but Otto Graham did start on defense. He played in the defensive backfield as a cornerback. And in fact, I'll give you another weird stat. Would you like this stat?
Yes.
Otto Graham had as many interceptions on defense as he did on offense that first season. He threw 5 picks, but he also made 5 picks as a cornerback.
Way to make up for his mistakes.
Yeah, that's right. So his net was 0.
That blows my mind. I mean, seriously.
Tom Brady. Do you hear that, Tom Brady?
I think we need
0
to share that.
interceptions.
I'm gonna share that on our network. That is a great stat.
How about that?
That is.
What year was that? Was that his first year in 46?
That was 1946. Yeah, he played less and less on defense.
So he had 5 interceptions and threw for 5 interceptions.
That's right.
That is awesome.
Yeah, one National Basketball League championships.
Move over Tom Brady. That's right. There we go.
Yeah, let's see you do that, Tom.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah. Or Aaron Rodgers. We'll just rub it in the Aaron Rodgers. Let's see if you can do that.
Yeah, rub it in.
Aaron Rodgers just barely has 1 football ring. Never mind basketball.
We've got a couple minutes left here. The Browns have their first preseason. They play in the Hall of Fame game against the New York Jets on August 5th, I believe. And I think we're going to have a road trip up that way. Actually, our plans to go to Florida have changed. So I will be here in Ohio. So anyway, with that, not that anybody cares. Where do you see what coming up now? We've had Minicamp. We're going to be going toward, the main part of camp starting up here. Browns will be in Greenbrier, I think West Virginia for a few days. Where are you at with your assessments, coming off of Minicamp? And we kind of talked about that earlier. What are you looking forward to over the next 2 months as we get closer to that first preseason game? Elliot, let's go with you first.
I think the Browns are much improved. I think if you go down the roster and compare them on defense to the Steelers, to the Ravens, and to the Bengals, their roster is just as tough as any of the other teams. I think I'm mainly concerned about the defensive backfield. I think they had the talent last season, but they didn't play very well. I don't know what's changed that much at the cornerback position. They still have talented guys, but they underachieved. So I'm mostly concerned about that.
Yeah, I think Schwartz, hopefully Schwartz and his. I think, Steve, you also going to you real quick, your final assessments, and you also pointed something out at the break or before we came on the air about what Jim Schwartz recently, the Browns just talked about today. Yes, you want to talk about that?
They hired him as a special defensive advisor, which I love the move. Him and Schwartz go way back. This guy's going to get another set of eyes. They run basically the same type of defense. He's already been at OTAs. He was at voluntary OTAs. One of the beat reporters noticed him. So I love this move. That does nothing but help the defense. And I agree with Elliot. That's what I'm most concerned about. The offense looks pretty relaxed, pretty looks like everybody's on the same page. Defense, I want to see it with my own eyes. Then I'll drink the Kool-Aid. Right now I'm sipping the Kool-Aid. Then I'll drink the Kool-Aid. That'll get me excited. I cannot wait for that third preseason game. I'm hoping it's going to be a full dress rehearsal against the Eagles. Good team. That should tell us a lot. That's what I'm looking forward. I'm also looking forward to no Browns player news in the next 6 weeks. Stay home, guys.
Yes.
Hire a driver. Order in.
Yes. I've got 2 words for Cleveland Browns players. Cubic zirconia.
I have 2 words. DoorDash.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Hey, guys, I appreciate you being on our Fanatical Elfz show. Once again, we have great contributors. Elliot writes for Dog Pound Daily, some other spots too. We got we got Steve up there. He writes for Cleveland Sports Talk, has his own blog, the Dog Pound South. Check them out. They are .net. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Elliot, again for being part of our show tonight and part of our Fanatical Elfz network. They are producing great stuff, and we'll be coming to you with more shows this weekend and next week. So stay tuned. Again, answer our trivia question. Tonight's question was, where does Paul Brown, what high school did he coach at in the state of Ohio? Everybody have a great night. Thanks. Go Brownies. See ya.
Go Browns.